Damon West, welcome to the Mindset Advantage podcast. You can tell I got excitement and passion in my voice today. I've been looking forward to this conversation for quite some time, man. I'm a big fan of yours. Welcome to the show.
DJ, thanks a lot, man. I just the number of people that we have in the same in our world that you've interviewed already, man. Just to be in that company with them on your show, dude. Thanks for having me, man. This is incredible.
Absolutely. We're going to have some fun today. You have a story like no other, and I've heard it several times, and I'm looking forward to hearing it again because it truly is inspirational and it has an impact like a story that I haven't heard before. And so I want to dive right in. I want to dive right into where that story starts for me, and it's July 30th of 2008. For my listeners that haven't heard that story, can we start there and then we'll kind of take it piece by piece? What happened on July 30th?
Yeah, no, you've done your homework. Let's go, man. I love diving in when people know the backstory. So listen, July 30th, 2008. It's a day I'll never forget because on that day, I'm a different version of the guy you see in front of you today. There's no best-selling books. There's no movie deal potentially happening. There's no family man. There's no businessman. There's no college professor. Not that day, because on that day, Damon West is sitting on the couch in this little ratty old apartment in Dallas, and I'm sitting next to my dope dealer, this guy named Tex. He's my meth dealer. And I'm telling Tex as we're passing this pipe back and forth, Tex, you don't want to be here, man. The cops are closing in on me. The end is near. DJ, 10 days before this guy that I was doing all my crimes in Dallas with, my partner in crime, this guy named Dustin. Dustin was the guy that knew everything about my criminal operation. Dustin was my right-hand man. Dustin was sitting in the custody of the Dallas Police Department. They had picked him up 10 days before in a stolen car. So they got my partner in crime in custody, which means it's only a matter of time before they have me in custody. Because here's the truth about crime: everybody talks. Everybody talks. That's the human nature part of crime, right? No one wants to get stuck with a big sentence in prison. And just as I pass a pipe that day, back to Tex that day, the window on my right blows out and shatters. And then tumbling across my living room floor is a little canister going end over end, and it's smoking on one side. DJ, dude, I've seen this movie before, brother. I know what this canister is going to do. And I try to get out of the living room as fast as I can, but it's too late. Boom! The flashbang grenade goes off in my face. Bright white light, loud noise, blows me back on the couch. And when I came to, when I can see and hear again, there's a cop standing over me in full SWAT riot gear. His boot is on my chest. The barrel of an assault rifle is digging in my eye socket, and his fingers over the trigger, DJ. And he is screaming at the top of his lungs, "Don't move, don't move." And I look up at the barrel of this gun, and I'm like, man, don't worry, don't worry. And one of the SWAT officers that floods in my apartment, one of these guys screams out loud, "We got him. We got the Uptown Burglar." And they did, DJ. They had me. That was the name they called me, the Uptown Burglar. About a dozen other meth addicts and myself, young and old, male and female, black and white, and everything in between, because drugs and addiction do not discriminate. But we indiscriminately and without reservation broke into the homes of dozens and dozens of people in the uptown neighborhood of Dallas to feed our insatiable meth habits. But on July 30th, 2008, the Uptown Burglary crime spree came to an end because they had their man. They had the mastermind of the entire thing zipped out on the floor of a dirty old apartment in Dallas.
So tell me a little bit more about the Uptown burglary. What were you doing? What happened? What didn't happen? What caused you to get to the point where you were right before that?
Yeah, I came from a really good family, DJ, and I always want to stress this, like, because addiction doesn't care who you are or where you come from, and all my life since I was 10 I took my first drink of alcohol when I was 10. I smoked my first joint when I was 12. But God blessed me with a cannon for a right arm. And back in Texas, where I live, man, Texas high school football, it's like a religion, man. And it's like people go to worship on Friday nights at those stadiums. They're like cathedrals. And I was the man. I was a 3-year starting quarterback for a 5A school back when 5A was the biggest division there was. Scholarship to play football at the University of North Texas, Division I college football. By the time I'm 20, I'm starting for a Division I team. But I got injured against Texas A&M in '96. And once my football career was over prematurely, I couldn't live life on life's terms. I had a hard time because football was my identity too. I'd wrap my identity up into something external. And it's a lesson I tell people all the time. You can't do that because you can't attach your identity. So I started making a lot of wrong turns at my fork in the road. And it was around drugs, cocaine, ecstasy pills. But I was a very functional addict. I graduated college at 99. I moved off to work in Washington, D.C. in the United States Congress. I worked in the Congress for a couple of years. Then I came back to Dallas and worked for one of the biggest Wall Street banks in the world, UBS, United Bank of Switzerland. And it was at that job as a stockbroker in 2004 that my life and the lives of all these other innocent people would forever be changed, because that was the day I was introduced to meth for the first time by another broker in 2004. And after the introduction of meth in my system, instantly hooked just like that. And I couldn't give everything away fast enough for that drug, because that is what addicts do, DJ. We give things away. Addicts, whether you're addicted to food, money, drugs, alcohol, clothing, shopping, sex, gambling, pornography, whatever it is, addicts give up their goals to meet their behaviors. That's what addiction looks like. And I gave everything away. I gave away my job, my home, my car, my savings account, my family, my tethering to God. In 18 months, I go from working on Wall Street to living on the streets of Dallas. And once I was homeless, I became a criminal. And it was petty crimes at first, breaking into cars, breaking into storage units. Then eventually I started breaking into people's houses. And that's when the burglary started. And DJ, listen, I don't pull any punches about this. The victims of my crimes, the people's homes I broke into, I didn't just steal property from my victims. I stole their sense of security, and I can't replace it. I can't fix it. I can't even apologize to them. The state of Texas said it's a felony to apologize to the victim of your crimes. They'll send you back to prison if you make an apology. So my victims will have to live with that for the rest of their lives. But after 3 years of committing property crimes against the people of Dallas, the Dallas SWAT team put an end to the Uptown Burglaries. But the Uptown Burglaries, DJ, went on for 3 years. And I was the ringleader of the whole group. I mean, and I went to great lengths to make sure that no one was home. I mean, one of the first burglaries I ever did, I broke into a U.S. post office, man. I stole a mailman uniform, mailman bag, mailman hat. I was a ghost, man. You can't tell me what your mailman looks like. Most people don't know what their mailman looks like. These condo buildings in Dallas, the mailman has the ability to go inside, and once you're inside, you're like a Trojan horse. And but the burglaries went on for about 3 years. And then on that fateful day, on July 30, 2008, the Dallas SWAT team took me down. And I tell people all the time, DJ, I didn't just get arrested that day by Dallas SWAT. Dallas SWAT rescued me that day. They didn't just arrest me. They rescued me. They pulled me out of a situation I couldn't get myself out of. They were like angels that had assault rifles, shields, and helmets, right? But they came through the window. They busted the door off the hinges, and they pulled me out of that world that I was in. I got to actually go back and thank the Dallas SWAT team in September of 2023, 15
Wow.
years after the takedown. Yeah. Went and thanked them and just told them where my life was now. I gave them $10,000 to buy more equipment so they could be safe and come home to their families and save more people too. So really great. I get to hang out and have relationships with the SWAT team now. So it's
Man,
cool.
that's so cool. Before we continue the story, I wanted to ask, I was curious to get your advice, and this might be a little premature, but I really wanted to ask the mindset of an addict. You've talked about many times that there's addiction to drugs, there's addiction to crime, there's addiction to your phone, there's addiction to things you shouldn't be looking at on the internet. I mean, addiction is a wide spectrum here, if you will. I'm curious, knowing what you know now, Damon, what's the conversation or maybe what's the advice that you would have to other parents? Your parents are very much involved or were involved in your life. What advice would you give to the parents listening who know that their child is addicted to something? Knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to the parents out there? I'm curious because I think this is more common than not, and parents are probably scratching their head going, what do I do here?
Yeah. So that's a great question. First of all, the only way I can live with my addiction and live a normal life, because if you're an addict like I am, you're not going to ever get rid of this thing. You're born with it. You can get well, but you're never going to, you can get better, but you're never going to get well. You're never going to be cured. Right. And so in order for me to live with my addiction, I got into AA, which is a 12-step program of recovery, Alcoholics Anonymous, because everything in my life started with alcohol. But the 12 steps that we use in that program of recovery, I think every human being by the age 11 should have to work the 12 steps in their lives, because the 12 steps gives us an understanding of how to live a good life. You've got steps in there like the fourth step where you make a list of all the things that hold you back, your resentments, your fears, your doubts. And then in the fifth step, you're sharing that stuff with another human being to work your way through that. And the eighth step, for example, you make a list of all the people you've harmed. And then the ninth step, you go make apologies to those people. These are the skills for living a better life. And the reason why we're doing all these things, where we're writing down our resentments and our fears, we're writing down the people we owe apologies to, and we're making the apologies, because those are the things that send us back out into whatever we're addicted to. Because the food, the money, the gambling, the drugs, the alcohol, whatever it is, the internet, it fires off these endorphins, these serotonins in our brains, and that makes us feel good for the moment, right? We forget about the life that we have, and that's what we're always looking for, something to make us feel better and take us away from the pain that we're in. So I would tell these parents, you got to figure out how to get a 12-step program recovery going inside your own house. And listen, do a little research what AA and the beginning of AA is. And every time you see alcohol in the big book of AA, replace that for whatever the addiction is, right? If it's the phone, every time they say the word alcohol, put in the word phone. And I would coach the parent. Now, this is going to take some super parenting. Go out and work the 12 steps yourself. Then run your kid through the 12 step as if you're their sponsor, find a way to get these kids working a 12-step program recovery, because it's not just for alcoholics and drug addicts. So many people in America, we hear the word addiction and we think it's just drugs and alcohol. It's not. There's a lot of things to be addicted to. Addicts give up their goals to meet their behaviors. If you ever find yourself or see someone that gives up the goals to meet their behaviors, that's an addict. And here's the thing I would tell you that's a real big test about whether or not someone's an addict. Addicts obsess over whatever it is. Addicts think about doing something. DJ, I mean, not to get too personal, but you're drinking. Do you consider yourself an alcoholic or with your drinking?
I don't know.
Okay. Good question. So do you ever obsess or think about drinking? Like today's Monday that we're recording this. Do you think about, man, I can't wait till the weekend so I can drink?
No, man, I hardly ever drink.
Yeah, cool. And this is great for the conversation. You're not an alcoholic, right? But an alcoholic will think about drinking. An alcoholic will obsess about drinking. They'll sit there and they'll play with this thought in their mind. I can't wait for Friday. I can't wait for Friday, and then put in. And whatever you obsess or think about, you have a problem with. It's the obsession. It's the constant thought, the mental obsession that goes with it. That's how you know if you're addicted to something. If you obsess about it, if you think about it so much, that's what addiction is.
Awesome. Great advice. Let's continue with the story. So we got through July 30th. You get arrested. Your world gets shaken up. What happens after that, Damon?
Man, they take me to Dallas County Jail. They set my bond at $1.4 million. It was the biggest bond in Dallas County at the time. There's 9,000 people in Dallas County Jail. It's a very big jail, one of the biggest jails in America. 1.4 million. That's a no bond. So I'm in Dallas County Jail waiting for my day in court. And they actually get me to court pretty fast. It's called the rocket docket. Anytime they want to get you to a trial, they'll find a way to make it happen fast. With me, it took them only 10 months to get me into a courtroom. And 10 months later, on May 18th, 2009, I'm standing in front of a jury in Dallas. And the jury, these 12 men and women in this jury box, they've just listened to a 6-day criminal trial. And y'all, 6 days for a trial where no one got hurt, it means the evidence of my guilt is overwhelming. And the crime, man, I'm not going down for a burglary case anymore, DJ. This is a very high-level crime now. This is engaging in organized criminal activity. This is a RICO case now. I'm going down like the mob goes down at this point, and I'm the boss. I'm the target of the prosecution. And at the end of that long 6-day trial, the jury went to deliberate for 10 minutes. 10 minutes, DJ. I don't know how much you and your listeners watch Law and Order, but if a jury's gone for 10 minutes, it means they smoked you. It's over, man. They brought me back in the courtroom. The judge read the sentence out loud. Damon Joseph West, you are hereby sentenced to 65 years in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. DJ, 65 years in Texas is a life sentence in the state of Texas. The jury gave me life that day.
So I'm curious, I don't think anybody's asked you this before. What did you expect the punishment to be? Did you have a number in mind?
Yeah, I thought I wouldn't get more than 20. I thought, maybe they'll give me 20. And look, man, when you're in county jail, they got guys that are on the pods and on the tanks where you live that know everything about the criminal justice system. They call them the jailhouse lawyers, right? But they all have this chart that tells you if you get this many years in prison, this is how long you have to do before you see parole. It's actually a chart that comes from parole, so it's very accurate, right? So I'm looking at the chart thinking, man, if I get 20 on a 20 piece, I've got to do about a year and 8 months before I see parole for the first time. And I'm like, oh, man, this is great, man. I'll go to prison for a couple of years, stand on my head. I'll get out. I'll be getting high again. But when the jury came back with life, man, it took my breath away. And I remember what life was on the chart. Life was 7 years before you see parole. Now, And people are probably wondering, you got life. How could you make parole in 7 years on a life sentence? Well, the answer to that is because my crimes that I committed were non-aggravated. Now, Texas has a classification system of two different kinds of crimes, aggravated and non-aggravated. Aggravated is crimes where someone is hurt in the crime. You have a physical victim. Think murder, think assault, think rape, think child molesters, think armed robbery. When you stick a gun in someone's face, that's a robbery. A burglary is when you break into someone's home. None of my crimes had a physical victim because I never saw my victims. No one was ever home. So if you have an aggravated offense in the state of Texas, you have to do half of your sentence before you see parole. And the timesheet that they had in county jail from parole, everything stops at 60 because 60 is a natural life sentence in the state of Texas. So when you hear a jury give someone 65 or they gave me or 99 or the word life, it all means 60 because you have to be 17 to go to prison, and 60 years on 17 is 77. That's a natural lifespan of a human being. So on this chart, it told me I had to do, as a non-aggravated offender, I've got to do 25% of my sentence, which is 15 for everybody counting at home. So I would do 15 years of a 60-year sentence. And if you have non-aggravated time, you'll have access to things like good time and work time. Now, aggravated offenders do not get access to good time and work time because they're stuck for half their prison sentence. Had my crimes been aggravated, had I hurt someone in the commission of my crimes, I would have had to go to prison for at least until 2038 before I saw a parole officer. Yeah, that's the difference between aggravated and non-aggravated. I saw parole in 2015, not 2038, because my crimes were non-aggravated.
Quite a bit different. I want to go back to that exact moment that the judge said that. Damon, what was I don't even know if you could put it into words, man, but what was the feeling that you had?
Like someone kicked me in the stomach, man. I mean, it was like the wind got knocked out of me. You know the feeling you get when you get the wind knocked, you can't talk, you can't breathe. And that's what it was for me. It was going on inside me. And the first thought I had is, damn, my parents heard that, And then the next thought, crazy the kind of stuff you think about, I was like, I'll never vote again. Because at one time in my life, politics was a big part. I worked in Congress, But the weird thing is that's what went through my head right when I got the sentence. Then things slowed down, the shock wore off, and I'm like, I just got hit with life. I'm at the top of that chart that I've been reading about in the jail. I just got the maximum, And I'm sitting there doing the math right now. Man, that's 2015 before I come up for parole. All that stuff is happening right fast. And then the sheriff is on me, the bailiff is on me, they're handcuffed me. They're getting me out of the courtroom. Happens fast, DJ, just like you see in the movies, man, especially with a lifer. They don't want you to run, right? So they're dragging me out of the courtroom, and I lock eyes with my mom on the way out. I'm like, Mom, I'm sorry. Man, they whisked me out of there. They put me in this little side room. It's got a bulletproof glass. They told me to wait. A few minutes later, my mom and my dad were escorted in on the other side of the glass. They're going to give my parents one last visit with me before I go to prison. They feel sorry for my parents because I just got life. My dad, my father, man, he can't talk. He is in stunned disbelief that his son, who once had all this promise in life, just received a life sentence in prison. So my mom does all the talking that day. And she said, baby, debts in life demand to be paid. And you just got hit with one hell of a bill from the state of Texas. But you did everything they said you did. So you're going to have to go and pay that debt to society. She said, you owe Texas that debt. But now you owe your father and I a debt too, because we gave you all the opportunity, love, and support to be anything you want to be in life. And that's how you repaid us what we saw in that courtroom. That's not going to work. And she's reminding me, we raised you in Port Arthur, Texas, Damon, a giant melting pot of a city. We gave you a great moral compass, but you chose to not use it. So here's the debt you're going to pay to us. When you go to prison, you will not get in one of these white hate groups, one of these Aryan Brotherhood type of gangs, because you're scared because now you're the minority in there. It's not going to work, Damon. You were never raised to be a racist. You're not going to start now. She said, you will not get any tattoos while you're inside that prison. She said, no gangs, no tattoos. She said, you come back as the man that we raised or don't come back to us at all. DJ, man, I'm stunned because I don't know how I can do this, right? I have no clue how I can survive what she's telling me to go through as an independent like that. But she reminds me, she said, you come back as the man that we raised, Damon, or don't come back at all. This is the debt you owe to us. So they take me back to my pod in Dallas County Jail. I got 2 months before the prison bus comes to get me. And I'm asking every guy that's been to prison before, how am I going to survive? What am I going to do? And every guy I talk to, man, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, they're all saying the same thing. You got to get into a gang. But there was this one guy that was so different, man, this older black man. And his name was Muhammad. And I've called him Mr. Jackson before in my book when I changed the names for everybody. But the guy's name was Muhammad. He was a Muslim guy, old black Muslim guy. He was different than everybody else in there. He was a real positive guy, always had a smile on his face. And every day he would check on me. So one morning he comes to check on me. And man, that's when he's going to share with me one of the most important messages I've ever heard in my life, man. Because he's telling me about prison and what to expect when I go to prison. He's telling me how bloody and violent it's going to be. Everything in there is about race. This is a black man telling me everything's about race because the inmates want it to be about race. And he's telling me that the whites are the lowest on the totem pole in there. He said exactly the opposite of what it is in the free world. He said blacks will have the power because they have the more numbers. He said, so when you get to prison, you have to fight the white gangs first because you're white. They're going to expect you to join. If you survive them, then you fight the black gangs. And the white gangs send the black gangs after you because everybody's trying to usher you in to shuttle you into your own group where you belong. He said, but if you survive all that and you can survive all this, you'll earn the right to walk alone. And he told me the strongest man in prison always walks alone. He told me the truth about fighting, DJ. He said, you don't have to win all your fights, but you do have to fight all your fights. He said, some days you're going to win, some days you're going to lose. He said, it's okay to lose. Just get back up and keep fighting. But what he's telling me is back in 2009, DJ, I'm looking back at this guy like a deer in headlights, all this violence and terror I'm about to walk into. And that's when he's like, Wes, let me break it down for you a different way. He said, I want you to imagine prison as a pot of boiling water. He said, anything we put in this pot of boiling water will be changed by the heat, the pressure inside that pot. He said, I'm going to put 3 things in that pot of boiling water and watch how they change: a carrot, an egg, and a coffee bean. So here's where I first heard the story of the coffee bean, DJ, the summer of 2009 in a jail cell in Dallas County, exactly 10 years before John Gordon would write that best-selling book in 2009 called The Coffee Bean. So he said, first things first, West, if I put a carrot in that pot of boiling water, what happens to the carrot? And I'm like, man, the carrot's going to turn soft. He's like, that's right. He said, but the carrot goes in the water really hard and firm, but the water of the prison turned the hard carrot soft and mushy and weak. You don't want to be the carrot. He said, what about the egg? What happens to the egg in the pot of boiling water? And I'm like, man, the egg is going to turn hard, man, like a hard-boiled egg. He said, that's right, Wes. He said, the egg has a shell that protects it physically, but inside that shell, that soft liquid core, the yolk, the heart, it becomes hardened. He said, now, if your heart becomes hardened, you become incapable of giving or receiving love. He said, if you're incapable of giving or receiving love, you become institutionalized and you do not come back as someone your parents recognize. Then he asked me the question, DJ. He said, what about the coffee bean? He said, what happened to the coffee bean in the pot of boiling water? And DJ, man, I got to tell you, man, I didn't know the answer to that question. And so he told me that day, he shared with me the story of the coffee bean. He said, the coffee bean, the smallest of the 3 things, he said, small like you, had the power to go in that pot of boiling water and change that entire pot of boiling water into a pot of coffee. He said the power was inside the coffee bean to change the world around the coffee bean. And he said the coffee bean couldn't even do its job until the water got the hottest, until the pressure was the highest. That's when the coffee bean could perform. And he told me, if you want to come back as someone your parents recognize, you got to be like that coffee bean. In fact, the last words he ever said to me, DJ, the prison bus is getting ready to come pick me up. He's getting ready to bond out of Dallas County Jail. He had 4 words for me on the way out the door. He said, West, be a coffee bean. Be a coffee bean, brother. The 4 words that changed my life.
Man, I got goosebumps down my neck. I could listen to the story all day long. I don't want to interrupt. Can you keep going? What happened after that? You get on the bus. Where did you go?
Yeah, so the prison bus, man, it's whenever you see these, if you're in Texas and you see these white transport buses on the highways of Texas, they're always running. The Texas Department of Criminal Justice has about 100 prisons, about 140,000 people are locked up. They're always moving people around throughout the state in these prison buses. Inside these prison buses, it's like a school bus from hell. You got inmates sitting 2 by 2 in all the chairs, right? All the seats, just like a school bus. But inside those seats are 2 men that are handcuffed to each other, and they're chained up on the bus together. And these bus rides can be long. You can go on a bus ride for 8 to 10 hours sometimes because you're just stopping by one county jail after another, picking up inmates going to prison. And you got to figure, man, an 8 to 10 hour bus ride, you're going to need to go to the bathroom at some point, right? Number one or number two. Or the guy you're handcuffed to, he's going to the bathroom, number one or number two. Guess who's going with him? You are. Whichever you do. The bathroom in the back is a bucket in the back, man. So these bus rides go on. You go throughout the state of Texas. It's hot. There's fights breaking out sometimes. You're scared. You get to the prison. They process you in. Now, I learned that the people that get life sentences in the state of Texas, they're segregated out from the rest of the prison population, meaning that they don't let lifers live with general population because they don't want you to escape. They want you to get escaping off your mind. So when you get life in Texas, you got to go live with nothing but life sentence people. My prison unit of assignment was called the Mark Stiles Unit in Beaumont, Texas. Stiles is a maximum security level 5 supermax prison. There's only about a dozen supermaxes in Texas. And this is one of the toughest prison assignments there is. It's a very hard prison to do your time in. They bring me to the Stiles unit that day. They separate me out from everybody else that was on the bus with me. I'm the only lifer on the bus. They take me to 7 building. And when I walk in the door that first day, within 20 minutes, I'm going to fight with the guy from the Aryan Brotherhood. And this guy cleans my clock, man. He beats me from one side of the day room to the other. And I knew he was coming because Muhammad told me what to expect, that he would be coming for you right away. And so within 20 minutes, I'm in my first fight with the guy from the Aryan Brotherhood, and he beats me, and I lost. But I showed up and I fought. And that's what fighting looked like for me. The first 2 months of prison, I probably got 3 dozen fights, and I lost 75% of those fights, man. But I won. I won all my fights in prison, DJ, because I showed up to fight. That's the thing I've learned about life. No one counts your wins and losses. No one in there did it. No one out here in the free world does it. No one cares about whether you win or lose. They always watch to see, do you get back up in the end? That's all you have to do to win in life. You just get back up. You get knocked down 8 times, get up 9. It took 2 weeks to get through the white gangs. After that, it was the black gangs, just like Muhammad said it would be. 6 weeks into prison, DJ. It's a Monday morning. I'm this close to being, I'm holding my fingers up an inch apart for those of us that listen to us. I'm this close to being a broken man. The violence and terror is too much. It's 6 weeks in. I'm still fighting the black gangs. The only thing I haven't used to earn respect inside that prison is my athletic ability. God blessed me to be a tremendous athlete in life. And I was a D1 starting quarterback at 20 years old. The reason why I haven't used my athletic ability is because the rec yard where you play sports, it's the most intimidating place I've ever seen, man. More intimidating than any college football stadium you can imagine, partly because it was the most segregated place I've ever seen. Every sport on the rec yard of the life sentence building was segregated by the color of your skin. Every sport. Let me walk you through the rec yard so you understand what I'm talking about. You go out there, they got a sand volleyball court. The sand volleyball court was for the whites and Hispanics. No blacks allowed. Handball. The big handball walls, all the races can play handball. But if you want to play someone in doubles and partner up with somebody in a game of handball, your doubles partner has to be the same skin color as you. You can't mix the races out there. The weight stack, just like you see in prison movies, man. Everybody wants to push that iron in prison, and all the races can lift weights. But you want someone to spot you, someone to work out with you, your partner, your spotter has to be the same skin color as you. You can't mix the races out there. The chow hall. You go to the chow hall, you want to eat a meal, you can't sit down at the table with people of a different race and eat your meal. Everything in prison was written by the code of race. Race was everything. So that Monday morning, 6 weeks in, I pass up all those other sports out there. I go out to the rec yard, I face my fears, and I go straight to the basketball court. Who do y'all think runs the basketball court? The blacks, the brothers, they run it. No white boys like me are allowed the basketball court. But DJ, I know sports is going to do it for me, man. I know that in America, sports is the great uniter, man. It's the one thing that brings people in this country together like nothing else can. So many other things divide us, but sports unites us. I mean, I'm going out to the rec yard and I'm thinking about all those Friday night football games that I played when I looked up in the stands and I saw these people in the stands, different backgrounds, different races, different genders. They're all hugging each other, slapping each other in the back, high-fiving. They're crying together on Friday night football games. I didn't see that necessarily the other 6 days of the week, not even in religion. We self-segregate our own churches in America, right? Think about this for a second. This is the things going through my head. Before there was Martin Luther King Jr., there was a guy named Jackie Robinson. Before you integrated lunch counters in the South where we live, you integrated locker rooms. DJ, I knew sports would be the thing that would make me whole inside that place. And I went out there that Monday morning. I bet on myself. I got myself in a game of basketball, and I got in way over my head, brother, because they let me play some basketball, but it wasn't 5-on-5. It was 9-on-1, man. My own teammates don't want me out there. And this is basketball in the life sentence building of a maximum security prison, man. You could punch, kick, scratch, bite. You could pull hair. I came out the first day. I had a black eye and a busted lip, but I survived. And I kept showing up every day, man. They couldn't get rid of me. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I learned two things about adversity that week, DJ, that I'll never forget. Here they are. Adversity is never as bad as you think it's going to be. And you're always capable of way more than you think you are. Because sometimes in life, we allow overthinking to get in the way of overcoming. And that week on the rec yard, it stopped, man. The violence was over. The threat to my physical safety was gone. The blacks told me, you don't have to worry about us. The rest of the time, you're good to go. So 2 months, man. 2 months, and it was over. And I had to get to work on myself because I was becoming the egg. I'm not going to lie to you. Prison was hard, man. It's a giant hot pot of boiling water. I underestimated what it would be. One of the last conversations I had with Muhammad in county jail, I asked him, I said, what will I find more of when I get to prison? And DJ, his answer was profound. He was one of the most intelligent men I've ever met. This is what he said. He said, you're going to find more eggs, West. And here's why you're going to find more eggs. The egg is the natural evolution of any human being in any difficult situation. He said, you're about to walk in one of the most difficult situations there is on earth. He said, the truth is, West, you'll probably become an egg too. He was right. He was right about everything, man. I had to work really hard. I had to change the way I was thinking, DJ, because your thinking is everything. Your thoughts control all your actions. My problem was, it was pointed out to me by my cellmate, this guy named Carlos, is that I was looking at prison as a punishment instead of looking at prison as an opportunity. And it was that shift of mindset that looked for the opportunity in my adversity that became a way of life for me. And that's when I started working myself and becoming that coffee bean. And that's what I do to this day, DJ. I have adversity hits me every day, man. But I look at the adversity, and even if there's just 1% chance of success in that adversity, that's what I focus on. I focus on the success. I work my butt off out there. I get in my reps. All the things you think about from sports that you learn, I'm just reapplying this back into prison. And the sport, the game that I'm playing is becoming the best version of Damon West.
Man, that's so cool. Something that I've noticed from listening to you on podcasts and reading the book and hearing about your parents was it never seems to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there never seems to be a moment where any of you guys in your camp said, this isn't fair. I don't deserve this many years. Or when you were in jail, when you were being punished, there was never a moment where it seemed like arguing or saying that this is unfair. I never heard the F word out of your mouth, the F word being fair. And you talk about Carlos being the cellmate. His advice was, don't see prison as a punishment, see it as an opportunity. I got to imagine that this whole mindset of making sure that, hey, I'm going to get something out of this. It's not supposed to be fair. You said that in the book a few times. Hey, this is not supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be fair. Having that
Yeah.
mindset, I'm going to guess, put you far above some of the people that you were around. Because I'm going to guess some people in there are going, I shouldn't be here. This is fair. They're pointing the finger. They're blaming. They're complaining. They're getting defensive. Where it seemed like you just accepted it.
Yeah. No, I said, hey, look, and one of the things that happened to me along the way is I worked a program recovery, 12-step program recovery called AA, right? And in AA, you own your behaviors. That's one of the things how we get to heal ourselves and we get to live a normal life is we go out there and we find the role that we play in all of our problems. Here's an axiom we live by in AA. And first of all, I don't speak for people in AA. That's the program recovery I attend is 12-step program recovery. But in AA, we say this: every time I'm disturbed, there's something wrong with me. Whenever I'm disturbed, there's something wrong with me. What this means is anytime I have a problem with something in life, I have a role that I play in that problem somewhere. And that's the thing that we're always trying to find, the role that we play in our problems. Because if we can figure out the role that we play, that's the one thing we can change. That's the one thing we can fix. That's the only thing we can control is the role that we play. And so I know that the role that I played in all my problems, the reason why I ended up in prison is because I became a drug addict. I became a criminal. I broke into people's homes. I violated the social contract. The social contract of America says if you want to live in this free society and enjoy the benefits of a free society, you have to follow the rules of society. And if you break those rules, you have to pay a price of punishment. And sometimes that punishment is to go to a place called prison. So when I got to prison, I knew I was exactly where I was supposed to be. It was finding out what I was there for each day. What can I learn out of this? How can I use this adversity to become a better version of me? And it wasn't lost on me that so many of the guys around me couldn't have that mindset, that way of thinking, because they were so stuck in trying to find someone to blame instead of, someone said one time, every time you point the finger at someone else, you point three back at yourself, right? They couldn't understand that there was a role that they played. And if they worked on that, changes everything. But that's how I did that. I mean, I just figured out the role that I played. And here's the thing too, DJ, no one wants to hear from somebody that makes excuses. We don't want to hear from somebody that says, well, yeah, this happened to me, but here's all the reasons why it happened. No, I mean, look, I did it. I owned it. The jury got to sentence me to life in prison because I made a choice to put myself in front of a jury. I made a lot of choices, and I committed crimes, and I broke into people's homes, and so I deserve what I got. So let's make the best version of myself possible while I'm here.
Man, that's the definition of making adversity your advantage and making your mess your masterpiece. I love it. You're such a good storyteller, Damon. I could listen to you all day. What's another pivotal moment or pivotal story? You were in for 7.5 years, I believe. What was another moment that you remember?
You know, so many of the ones. There was a time in the first couple months, I'd been jumped. It was right before the basketball court stuff happened. I'd been jumped, and I got my butt beat bad, man, by multiple guys that day. It was on a Friday, so I got up the next morning, and it's a Saturday morning, and that's when chapel service is running. And here was my plan. This is 6 weeks in, right at the 6 week mark. I'm gonna go to church. I'm gonna go to church that morning, and then I'm gonna come back to my cell and I'm gonna hang myself off my cellmate's top bunk, off Carlos's top bunk. Figure that's just the only way I can get this done. I'm getting beat too bad. It's too much. So I go to church. I'm at the church service. There's about 200 inmates in there. I get a tap on my shoulder, and I look back, and it's this volunteer chaplain lady named Miss D. And Miss D is a little bitty lady, a little bitty old lady, about 4'10". She's 85 years old. She taps me with her cane. She says, "Come on in my office, Mr. West. I need to talk to you." So I go to her office, and she shuts the door. She sits me down. She says, "Mr. West, what's bothering you today?" She said, "I can see that something's bothering you. What's wrong?" And man, the first thought, DJ, is like, man, of all the people in here, there's 200 inmates. We're all serving life. Something's bothering everybody. How did she pick me? So I just broke down and started crying. I'm like, "Miss D, I can't take it anymore. I can't do this." And I told her what my plan was. And she was just really calm. She said, "You can't kill yourself, Mr. West. You can't give up on God." And the minute she mentioned God, I got so angry, DJ. I was like, "What do you mean, God? How could God create a place so wicked and evil and sinister as this prison, right?" And she was just so calm. She said, "You think you're the first person to get mad at God?" She said, "The Bible's full of people that got mad at God, but they all came back to God because they learned what the secret to faith was." And I'm like, "Miss D, what's the secret to faith? I need to know what the secret is." She said, "It's this. If you're going to pray, don't worry. But if you're going to worry, don't pray." She said, "You can't do both at the same time." She said, "You're either going to let God do his job or you're going to try to do his job for him." She said, "You're going to let God drive the car or you're going to drive the car today. But the last time you drove it, you parked it inside of a maximum security prison. So choose who gets those keys today and choose wisely." And she let me leave. She's not supposed to let me leave on a suicide protocol like that. But she opened my eyes up to it that I can't play God's role, and I had to understand that there's only a few things I can control in life. I can control what I think. I can control what I say, even to some extent what I feel, and especially what I do, what I think, what I say, what I feel, and what I do. And nowhere on those four things or, this prison, the violence I'm facing, stuff like that. But my reaction to it, I could control. And that's when I went back to my cell that weekend and prayed and just prayed for the strength to figure out my way through the rest of it. And that's when the basketball thing came to me, right before that Monday morning. I'm going to go to the rec yard. I'm going to go use this God-given talent that I have that I haven't used so far because of fear. Fear, DJ. Fear is a liar, man. That's why I tell people all the time, never listen to yourself. No, the voice in your head can be fear talking to you. You don't want to listen to fear. Fear's a liar. So instead of listening to myself, I talk to myself, DJ. I do it a lot, man. I do it all the time still. I tell myself what I need to hear because you're the voice that you're going to hear more than any other voice throughout your entire lifetime. The voice in your head, the voice coming out of your mouth, your ears will hear you more than anybody else.
I can't help but just comment on the angels that have been in your life. You call those SWAT team members. They were angels that were
Yeah,
sent from God. Miss D is an angel as well, Damon. I mean, wow, the people
no
that
doubt.
were put purposely in your life through God were both men of faith here. I mean, wow, those people were put there on purpose with purpose, and they not only changed your life, they saved your life.
But I'm not special in regards to that. You're absolutely right. All of us experience this, but sometimes in life, you're not receptive to it, right? Because God can use any messenger to get through to you. Christ can use any messenger to get through to you. These people that come into your life, the messengers, they won't always look like you. They won't come from the same background as you. One of mine, he sent a black Muslim man from the streets of Dallas, right? Totally different from this white Christian guy from Port Arthur. This other guy, this Carlos, man, this bank robber serving life in my cell. This, that's it's a Hispanic bank robber. We have we have not a lot in common, right? Miss D, you know, God can use any messenger to get through to you, but you have to be receptive to all of his messengers to get all of his messages. And when I tell you I'm not unique in that, there's messengers coming at you all the time, but are you receptive to the messengers? It's like this joke that I heard one time. This guy is on his roof. There's a hurricane and his house is flooding. So he gets on his roof and he's praying to God, please God save me, please God save me. And he has all this faith in God that God's going to save him. So the first guy comes on a boat. Hey, man, hop on this boat. Let's go. No, man, I'm good. God's got me. I'm good. The guy on the boat takes off. Another guy comes and he's on a helicopter. And they scream up to him, grab onto the rope, grab on the rope. We're here to save you. No, it's okay. God's got me. I'm good. Helicopter goes and takes off and goes and saves someone else, right? Well, the guy dies. He drowns because the water overtakes his house and he drowns. And he gets up to heaven and he gets to meet God. He gets to meet Christ, and he said, hey, man, I thought you were going to save me. I thought that's what this is all about. I had faith in you. He said, yeah, I sent a boat. I sent a helicopter, but you didn't. It's like, so these angels come to us in different ways. We have to be receptive to all that.
I love that. What a great story. I want to go back to the coffee bean because there's so much power in that. And the book is obviously phenomenal, sold a bunch of copies. And if listeners, if you haven't read the coffee bean yet, I highly encourage you to grab the book, read it to your kids too. It's a great, quick, easy read. What I think is important about the coffee bean, Damon, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but one of your quotes is that we don't create our world from the outside in, we create and transform it from the inside out. And so
That's
with
right.
the coffee bean goes in the pot and then it transforms its environment. It starts within us. I think in order to really understand the coffee bean, that is the sentence that needs to be broken down and opened up, that it starts from within. Can you touch on that?
Yeah. And whenever Muhammad told me this, it was transformational for me. Immediately I got it, right?
Mhm.
Because I could understand I've got these three choices. And he broke it. That's why anybody from 5 to 95 years old gets the coffee bean. That's why it's so impactful, because you can understand metaphorically what happens to these three different things, right? But it was the ultimate message to me about our worlds being created from the inside out, not the outside in. Very important for where I was going, because if my world is created from the inside out and the power's inside me, now, if the power's inside, power can only be in one place. If the power's inside me, it's not in the world around me. The criminal justice system, the guards, the inmates, they don't have the power over me. I've got the power inside me to change the world around me, but I've got to keep that power inside me. And if I could keep the power inside me, then I wouldn't just survive prison. I'd thrive inside of a prison. And it was the right message at the right time, because I got to test it out in the biggest pot of boiling water there is. DJ, this is a level 5 Supermax in Texas, man. It doesn't get any hotter of a pot of boiling water, right? But I found and I proved that if I could do it in there, then you can do it out here. That transformational message of the coffee bean tells us that no matter what the obstacle is in front of us, there's an opportunity in there for us to grow and become the better version of us. But we have to focus on the success. We have to see ourselves being successful, and you have to believe in yourself, DJ. Growth follows belief. In order for someone else to believe in you, you're going to have to believe in yourself first. They're going to believe in you once you believe in yourself. I'll tell you an application of this. Whenever I got out of prison, I knew I was sitting on this incredible message and this great story. I just lived it. And I wanted to go out and share it with as many people as I could. But I found out really quickly, DJ, you can't go knock on the door of a high school and say, I just got out of prison. I want to talk to your kids. And they chase you down the street. They chase me. So I had to find people that would believe in me. And it was tough at first. There weren't a lot of places for me to speak this first couple of years. But in my parents' spare bedroom where I once lived, there was a little vanity mirror in there. Just happened to be there when I moved in. Every night for 2 years that I wasn't speaking somewhere else, I was practicing my presentation in front of that mirror. I was getting into my reps. I was getting good at what I was going to do. And I was getting ready for the opportunity when I would get in front of the right audience and I would be prepared. And we have to do that in life, DJ. You got to get in your reps. Anything you want to be good at, whether it's your being a husband, being a father, mother, daughter, whatever it is, being a good at your job and sales, coaching, whatever it is, get your reps in, practice what you're going to do. My opportunity came, I believe it would be my opportunity. It was January 12th, 2017. I live in Beaumont, which is 90 miles from Houston. A buddy of mine that works for KHOU in Houston, he called me that day on January 12th, 2017, 14 months out of prison. And he said, man, get to Houston right now. He said, it's the Bear Bryant Coach of the Year award show going on. They're going to name the best college football coach in America. He said the 8 best coaches in the country are going to be in this room. I've got an extra press pass. If you want to go, I'll sneak you in. So I drive the 90 miles from Beaumont to Houston after work that day. He sneaks me in the back door of Toyota Center. There I am, DJ. I'm in this room. And all the best coaches there, USC, Wisconsin, Penn State, PJ Fleck, they're all there. And I'm running up to these coaches. I'm pressing the flesh and I'm shaking their hand. And I'm giving them my pitch of why they should bring me in to talk to their team. And every coach I met that night, DJ, slammed the door in my face. They all said no. One way or another, it was a no. In 1 hour, I've gotten 7 no's from the 8 coaches in the room. It is a bloodbath. That's a no every 8 minutes. Now, I'm in the corner of Toyota Center at this point. I'm licking my wounds. I'm feeling sorry for myself. And the voice in my head is screaming at me, go home. Get out of here. You're an imposter. What are you doing here? I think most people listening to this have felt that imposter thing come on before, the imposter syndrome. Everybody has, right? You feel it sometime. But again, I quit listening to myself a long time ago. I talk to myself. And that's what I'm doing that night. I'm like, no, Damon, no. That last coach is going to tell you no to your face. You're not leaving until he says no to you. And the last coach, DJ, hardest guy to get to in the room. His team had just beat Alabama for the Natty 2 nights before, man. Everybody wants this guy's time. But I'm relentless, man. And I believe in myself. So I stalk Dabo Swinney around that room. And man, I'm like a nut, man. I'm hiding behind fake plants. I'm weaving in and out of people. You know, Dabo sees me at this point. Security sees me too. But I finally get in front of Dabo and I give him my best stuff for about 60 seconds. And I come up for air. And Dabo's like, man, you got a card on you or something? So I gave him my card. And Dabo said, hey, I'll check you out. And he's gone. And it was a no. Looked like a no, felt like a no. But man, I'm going to tell you what I felt good about that night. That no. You know what that no represented? Me leaving it all on the field. And that's the lesson we learn from sports. Or like Muhammad said, you don't got to win all your fights. You got to fight all your fights. I went home that night and slept like a baby. Forgot all about that night. 4 months later, I get an email from the director of football operations at Clemson, a guy named Mike Dooley. And Mike Dooley's email said, hey, Damon, Coach Swinney met you at the award show in Houston. He'd love to have you come talk to the team. Do you have August 1st open? Mike, I got every first open, brother. You know, I got nothing going on. So August 1st, 2017, I go speak to the Clemson Tigers, the defending national champions of college football. And after that presentation was over, Dabo brought me in, you know, got up in my face. And Dabo's a very high energy guy. And Dabo's like, man, that's the most amazing story I've ever heard. He said, have you been to Alabama yet? I was like, no, Dabo, I've been to Clemson, man. I hadn't been anywhere. So Dabo calls Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, Lincoln Riley, Chip Kelly, Lane Kiffin, Ryan Day. All these coaches start calling my cell phone. Dabo connects me to John Gordon. And John Gordon, I would write this best-selling book called The Coffee Bean in 2019, right before a global pandemic, and the world became a pot of boiling water, and my life just took off in a vertical rise. But it all goes back to that one night in Houston, Texas, January 12th, 2017, when I'm in the corner that night after 7 no's. And the voice in my head told me to leave, DJ. And if I walk out the door that night, and I almost walked out the door, we're not having this conversation today. The world doesn't have the coffee bean message. So what I'm telling everybody is you don't give up when it gets tough. You don't quit. You don't throw in the towel. You don't not ask your question. Hell, the only question you know the answer to in life is the one you don't ask. It's a no every time because you never ask the question. Wayne Gretzky may have said it best. You miss 100% of the shots you do not take. You have to take your shots in this life. And I've gone back to bring this full circle. I've gone back. Dabo and I are great friends to this day. I've gone back to Dabo before and I asked him, I said, what made you, you know, give me the chance? What made you
Yeah.
say yes when everybody else said no? He said, Damon, I can see it in your eyes, man.
Wow.
The passion, the conviction. He said, man, I know that feeling. Dabo's got a very at-risk story. Dabo grew up dirt poor, man. Dabo's mom was his roommate in college. You know, she didn't have the money to have her own place. They slept in the same bed for 4 years. Him and his mom always playing receiver at the University of Alabama. Dabo said, man, I know what it feels like to be where you were. I saw it in your eyes. That's why you got the shot.
Man,
Crazy, man. Your
that's
passion, though.
incredible.
People feel that.
I can feel that, and that's the power of talking to yourself, not listening to yourself. It is life changing. It's not some fun phrase that's on a coffee mug. That is life changing, brother. Wow.
Yeah,
Very cool. I'd love to close
absolutely.
down with a story that I don't think you get asked on very much, but I read it and I was like, this is a really cool, good way to end the podcast today. It's Mr. Jackson or Muhammad talking about not on my line. So you have 5 rules for a coffee bean. So people are listening. How can I go be a coffee bean? I love this. First one is stay focused on the present and the future. The past is your lesson. The present is a gift. The future is your motivation. Number 2 is positive body language. The power to energize those
Yeah.
around you begins with a smile. Number 3 is control the controllables. And I love the story here. If you remember it, could you tell me about what it means to not on my line?
Yeah. So I learned this lesson in prison, and we went to an AA meetings. All the AA meetings start off with this beautiful prayer called the Serenity prayer. And so the guy that brings the meeting to the prison, he said, "Hey man, we're going to diagram the Serenity prayer today." And he has a chalkboard behind him in the chapel. He draws a line from one side of the chalkboard to the other. And he said, that line is God's line. It's bigger than the chalkboard. It's infinitely long. He said, the first part of the prayer, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. He said, the things you can't change are on God's line. And every time you try to touch something on God's line, you hurt yourself, you hurt other people because you're not God. And God doesn't need your help doing his job. He's got this. He said, besides, you got your own line. And he goes and erases a little inch out of God's line. And for everybody listening, I'm holding my fingers up an inch apart for DJ to see. He said the second part of the prayer, the courage to change the things I can. He said the things you can change are on your little 1 inch line. He said, now think about this. If God's line is infinitely long, your line's to scale, you got an inch. He said that little 1 inch line was called humility. And he said, when we are humble, we can be right sized. And when we're right sized, we can be useful to other people. He said, the things you can change are on your little 1 inch line. And he said, there's 4 things God gives you to work on every day in your life: what you think, what you say, what you feel, and what you do. Those are the things you get to control. And if it's not one of those 4 things, you have zero control of it. He said the world goes on around you. You can't control the world around you, but you can control the world inside you. He said the last part of the prayer was the most important part of the prayer for us addicts, especially, is the wisdom to know the difference between the big line and that little bitty line. I can't tell you how many times a day, DJ, I come up to a decision in life, a choice to make in life, and I'll walk away and say, that's not on my line. And I burn off. So it's been very helpful for me, and hopefully that helps somebody out there understanding what's on their line, what's not on their line.
Man, what a great place to end it. Damon, this was so incredible. So many bits of wisdom. I can't wait to go back and re-listen to this many times. How can my listeners learn about you, support you, and if somebody wants to bring you in to speak, what's the best way to kind of get a hold of you? The floor is yours.
Yeah, man. My website is where everybody goes to, damonwest.org, DAMONWST.org. That's how people find me for speaking engagements. My books are anywhere that Amazon is sold. My favorite book of all my books is The Change Agent. Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, anywhere books are sold. Yeah, that's it, man. The Change Agent. That's got my whole life story in there. Instagram, Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it, social media, at Damon West 7. So that's where you can find me. And yeah, reach out to me. Follow me if nothing else, man. I got positive stuff I put out every single day.
Damon, you're the man. Thanks for your time, dude.
Thanks, EJ. Thanks for today.